Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Fisha Fitri. I'm from English Education Study Program Class C. I make this video because I want to explain the material I have summarized in Chapter 2, A Methodical History of Language Teaching. In the century spanning in the middle 1980, the language teaching profession we involved in a search. That search was for what was popularly called methods, or ideally a single method generalizable across widely varying audience that would successfully teach students a foreign language in a classroom. And we will turn to that methodical history of language teaching in a moment. But first, we should try to understand what we mean by method. A method was described as an overall plan for systematic presentation of language based upon a selected approach. What they use to call method is a more comfortably referred to, I think, as methodology. In order to avoid confusion with that, we will no doubt always think of as those separate entities that are no longer at the center of philosophy. Another terminological problem lies in that use not term design. Instead, we more comfortably refer to curricula or syllabuses when we refer to design features of a language program. The first is about methodology. Pedagogical practices in general, including theoretical understanding and related research, whatever consideration are involved in how to teach are methodological. The second is approach. Theoretically, well-informed position and belief about the nature of language learning, and the applicability of both to pedagogical settings. The third is method, a generalized set of classroom specification for accomplishing linguistic objectives. Methods tend to be connected primarily with teacher and students' roles and behaviors, and secondary with such feature as linguistic and subject matter objective, sequencing, and materials. They are almost always looked as being broadly applicable to variety audiences in a variety of contexts. And about curriculum or syllabus, designed for carrying out a particular language program. Features include a primary concern with the specification of linguistic and a subject matter objective, sequencing, and materials to meet the needs of designated group of learners in defined context. The term syllabus is usually used more customarily in the United Kingdom to refer to what is called a curriculum in the United States. And the last is about the technique, almost commonly referred to by other terms, and any of a wide variety of exercise, activities, or tasks used in the language classroom for realizing lessons objectives. Next is about cognitive code learning. The age of audiolingualism, with its emphasis on surface form and on the rote practice of scientifically produced patterns, began when the Chomsky revolution in linguistic turned linguistic and language teacher toward the deep structure of language. Increasing interest in generative transformational grammar and focused attention on the rule-governed nature of language and language acquisition led some language teaching programs to promote a deductive approach rather than the inductivity of the ELM, arguing that children subconsciously acquire a system of rules. Proponents of a cognitive code learning into language began to inject more deductive learning into language classes. Cognitive code learning was not so much a method as it was an approach that emphasized a conscious awareness of rules and their application to second language learning. And the last is about designer's method of the spirited 1970. Today, as we look back at these methods, we can applaud them for their innovative flair, for their attempt to roast the language teaching war out. It is audiolingual sleep, and for their stimulation of even more research as we sought to discover why we're not to God sad that their inventors and marketers hope they would be. And the security that designer method underwent has enabled us today to incorporate certain elements thereof in our current communicative approaches to language teaching. Okay, I think that's all for me about the summaries in chapter 2 about methodological history of language teaching. More and less, please forgive me. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.